everybody, and welcome back to Stress and Purpose in Life. I'm your host, Stina, and today we're going to talk about a trait in the series of traits of life that is one of the game changers for both homes, schools, and in the boardrooms. And we're going to talk about respect. And studies show that you really need to have respect both at homes and in organizations to really built on the psychological safety at homes and in schools and at work, and actually be feeling a sense of disrespect creates a different environment, a bad environment, where you can actually decrease your performance and your motivation. So it's a really important trait. And again, we are here with the amazing Dr. Rawson, who's going to talk more about this, and I'm going to ask him a few questions. We have actually had quite a few interesting sessions, you and me, regarding your traits of life and the time tail end and the different characters and also the different traits that you have. We have 25 traits that we are going to talk about. We have gone through 4 of them, and this is another one. We have quite a few left that we are going to talk about. But today it's about respect, and it will be in correlation to resilience. So welcome back, Dr., to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I always enjoy these podcasts with you, Stina. You're wonderful.
Thanks so much. The same. Me too. So what is your definition of respect regarding your experience and where you come from?
Let's begin by setting the foundation. First of all, in the category of 25 essential character traits, respect is number 1. And there are 5 core traits, and they are respect, resilience, responsibility, kindness, and love. If you meet somebody who's got at least those 5 things, they're a pretty decent person. So you have to look for those. But the problem is, who's giving respect these days? I'm preparing a TED Talk right now, and the very first question that I have for the audience is this. So let me ask you just to think for a moment of all the people that you encounter. If every one of them understood and practiced respect, what kind of a world would we live in? Better or worse?
And respect is such a can be defined in different ways. Respect can be in different ways. It can be through communication. It can be self-respect. It can be respect between individuals, different cultural differences, and it can be so much things. So of course, it depends on how you define it and how you feel that what is respect for you and where you are in your life and in your culture or in your age and gender, whatever it is that you are in your specific situation. Or do you agree with that, Dr.?
I do. And I think the very first aspect of respect is this: listening. I don't care what culture you're in. I think I've mentioned before in this show, I've been around the world more than 25 times. I've been in various cultures and been with people that have more resources than you can imagine and people who have nothing. And I'm going to tell you that the first sign of respect, no matter where you are, no matter what the circumstance is to listen, not talk, not anything else, but listen. And if the other person feels that you're listening right away, they give you respect because nobody else listens to them.
No.
It's that simple. My wife is a classic example. I'm fairly gregarious, and I tend to speak a lot, particularly if somebody pushes a button, I just speak. That works out well. My wife, on the other hand, they come up to her and they greet her. Oh, hi, Margaret. How are you? So on and so forth. She says, I'm great. How are you? And shuts up. And they walk away from that conversation going, she is the best communicator. She listens. Oh, my gosh. She's much more popular than I am. I can tell you that.
But that's a different kinds of communication. I mean, being silent is also quite a good way of finding and showing respect.
Hmm.
being silent, and also not being silent is sometimes seen as disrespectful. So it's a balance there, of course.
Yeah, it
Um,
is. It depends on the culture.
yeah,
Depends
it
on.
depends on the culture, exactly, and exactly, I agree. And how do you think then? I mean, respect is becoming more important because we have like a fast-paced environment, both at home and the workplace and everything. And how is that? What do you think? Why do we have we forgotten about showing respect to other people, or what is your view on that?
Well, I think that's one of the biggest problems we have is that few people actually demonstrate respect, not like it used to be. When I was a boy in school some years ago, um, respect was the first thing we were taught because, quite honestly, if the teacher didn't have respect in the classroom, it was just utter chaos. And when you think about a corporate structure, if people don't respect the CEO, everything is done slower. They don't have trust in them. It backs up into so many areas. And I'll tell you where it backs up the most is in your bottom line. Now you go into a family circumstance. If the children don't respect the parents, then there's no control. It's that simple. So that has to happen. And in the community, if you're working with people in the community, if you want to gain respect, then you need to listen to them. And that listening will develop trust. So the natural fallout from respect is trust. So when people have trust in you, they first feel safer. So they feel like they can communicate with you. They feel like they can express their opinion. They feel like they're a part of the team. There's all kinds of advantages of that. So trust is the first byproduct of respect.
Yeah.
And from there, it just gets better. So trust has to be earned, and you earn that by listening and then by actually doing something about it. It's part of what we consider character, integrity, and and credibility,
Yeah.
CIC. And you've got to have all those things in order to go forward. And we define character, integrity, and credibility like a three-legged stool. And so if respect is the cornerstone of character, then you can see if you don't have that, that stool starts to tip pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And people need to understand what respect is and give respect. Give respect. People deserve respect unless they've done something to absolutely convince you they have no right to any respect.
Yeah.
But until then, you need to give respect.
And
And that's it.
what happens if people have not grew up with respect, have been grew up in a disrespectful environment, and you have can
What
you
happens if they grow up without it?
yeah,
Without
they have perhaps not had that
well,
in their
I
lives, and what happens with them, do you think?
Well, they fill prisons by those hordes, I can tell you that. Those people, a good portion of them anyway, have absolutely zero respect for you or for anybody else or for any company or whatever. They just take what they want, and that's the other end of respect. If you
Mm.
don't have respect, you just feel like you're entitled to everything.
Yeah.
And so that's what criminals do. They just take what they want. So that's one byproduct. The other byproduct is the organization within your life. You look at children without respect. They just run from pillar to post. They have no structure, and it's very, very obvious. I'll give you a classic example. When I was a kid, my parents told me, "Don't touch that car. That belongs to somebody else. That's not your property. You pay them respect by not touching their car." Oh, okay. So what happened is over time now it's commonplace for kids to spray paint on cars, tag them with keys, do whatever because it's not theirs. Why do they have to
Right.
care?
Yeah.
They have no respect. And that's the byproduct of not having any respect. And so that kind of activity leads to criminality. And that's where it goes. So that's the downside. That's the ultimate downside of failure to respect.
Yeah. Do you think that it can be taught later in life? I mean, your tiny land, the traits that you have, the characters and everything. Respect is one of the main traits that are so important. Do you think that it is able, this ability for people to learn how to drive again, how to use respect in a more constructive way, and also have the self-awareness that they need to work on that? Do you think that it's possible to learn and to teach that later in life?
Oh, absolutely.
People?
Regardless of what age you are, you can learn respect. You can learn anything. Hell, I'm 78, and the more older I get, the more I realize I don't know. So yeah, I'm always learning. But anyway, kids in the second, third, fourth grade, these are the kids who are they're like little sponges. They just take it all in. And this is a great time to teach respect and any one of the other character traits. We have this series called CIC, Character Integrity and Credibility, and we teach that character traits to adults because a lot of them don't they just don't experience it. They don't have it. And there's a particular age group that really doesn't have them. But let me give you a real world example. I had a particular company where this young programmer came into me and he says, "Nobody listens to me." I said, "Really? Do you listen to anybody else?" "What?" See, it was all about him. "Do you listen to anybody else?" I said, "I'm going to ask you a practical question. What do you really know? You know, you're a junior programmer and you're embedded with a bunch of senior programmers. And so what do you really know? Shouldn't you be listening more than you're talking? And in so doing, you're going to pay the respect to them and they're going to be more willing to share with you because you trust them." He walked out of there and on the way out, he says, "Geez, I never thought of that." Well, a lot of people don't. They don't understand the impact of their actions. And that's a real world situation. So in that programming sense, we did that with those guys and we wound up bringing a huge project in on time and under budget because we got them working as a cohesive team, listening, doing, sharing, talking, communicating whenever they needed to, and always sharing ideas. That
Mm.
doesn't always happen.
Yeah, and I think that's when we talk about respect in organizations and the respectful communications in the organization, that shapes also the team, the culture in a team, and also the resilience in a team, right? So I want to go into that a little bit. What do you think is what is the correlation between respect and respectful communication and finding resilience in both organizations and also for human individuals?
Right.
Have
Well,
some idea there?
respect and resilience go hand in hand, but it's a little different than what most people might imagine. If I have respect for you because you're who you are and I've watched you in action and so forth, and you come back to me and say, "DR, listen, I want to tell you frankly, I don't think you're very communicative and I don't think you're really reaching the people because you don't open up and share enough." No, I got two ways to go with that. I can go, "Well, you're wrong. You're just wrong." But that shows little respect.
Mm.
However, if I sit back and go, from her perspective, that might be true. But I wonder if it's everybody's perspective. But nevertheless, I trust her. So maybe I need to take that as a challenge and be a little resilient and come back to center. You can always bounce back,
Mm.
always bounce back. So I think that's where it goes hand in hand. You know,
Yeah.
when people berate you, when people uh, fire you, when people take things from you, uh, do something terrible to you, uh, you got a choice. You can either let it just absolutely overwhelm you, and that becomes your your whole attention,
Mm.
or you can sit back and say, now, what can I learn from this? And that's the process of bouncing back. So the police officer comes in and says, well, they robbed your house and you're obviously got a problem here. So let's talk about what you did. Did you leave the key around? Do people know where you hide the key? Do you stay up a little too late? People think that you're here or there, or you're sleeping long, or whatever, or you travel a lot. You don't do anything with your neighbors and notice them. Huh? Hadn't thought about all that stuff. Yeah. So you pay him respect and say, that's a challenge. Okay, clearly I need to change.
Mm.
But a lot of people in coming through resilience, they just think it's a way to tough it out. This is
Yeah.
just, but I can be better than this. I can do this. I can overcome this. And just sheer guts. That's not what resilience is about, because that's really masking. Let's put a name on it. That's masking,
Yeah.
because all you're doing is just masking your emotions. You're not dealing with them, and you're not dealing with any of your feelings. So as a result, you just go around going, I'm tough. I can do this. I can do this. And eventually, one day, it just kind of caves in on you, and you
Yeah.
realize you got a whole bunch of stuff you've never resolved. Now you know why psychologists' offices are filled with people, because they don't deal with their emotions.
Yeah.
They don't deal with their feelings. So that's where I think resilience and respect meet each other.
Yeah. And I want to add something, because the reason why I asked that question was because I looked at on the from the MIT review, management Sloan management review, that they actually see that 42%, if you have shown high level of respect in an organization, in a team, they actually get more adaptable and flexible in changing crisis.
Absolutely.
And
And
that
why
is
do
also
they do
the
that?
connection between resilience and respect. Yeah.
Because they trust each other.
Yeah.
And trust is a byproduct of respect. So that's exactly what it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a classic example. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's so interesting because you have that in connection to a fast changing environment, and to balance that is quite difficult. And if we have tools to teach respect and just remind ourselves about respect. I think we need to be reminded what respect is. So
Yeah.
that's a good thing that you have that as a trait, and it's really important, I think. So it's good.
You know, I had 6 children. By the way, I have 18 grandchildren, and I have a brand new great grandchild. So I have 8 great grandchildren.
Congratulations.
Thank you. One of my 6 was a not very respectful child, and she did her damnedest to try and try and disrupt everything you could possibly imagine. She didn't care about anything except her. So one day I sat down with her and I said, why do you act like that? Why do you treat your brothers like that? Why do you treat your sisters like that? Do you not care about them? Well, they're not going to help me. I said, really? Well, why would they? She says, well, because I'm a sister. No, they don't have any obligation to do that just because you're a sister. They have an obligation to do something if they respect you. Let's start with that. And the only way they're going to respect you is if you respect them. They're a person. They have a right to exist. They have a right to do things. And you should be listening to them.
Oh.
She said, why would I do that? I said, because they might know something you don't. Oh, well, I hadn't thought of that. I said, exactly. So sometimes you just need to listen instead of talk and lash out. Try that just as an experiment for me. Just, if you love me, just do the experiment and see what happens. Just try it for a week and then we'll talk in a week. Let's see what happens.
Mm.
So I met with her a week later and she said, I think it works, Dad. I said, really? Yeah. She says, I had some good conversations this week with my sisters. I said, that's good. That's positive. Did you like it?
Mm.
She says, yeah, it was good. They're maybe a little smarter than I thought they were. Oh, well, that's good. So that was a family circumstance. Now I can give you tons of business experience where the same thing has happened. In the family, you don't really have a bottom line, but what you do have is joy. You do have fun. You do have cohesiveness. You have all these other metrics that you can apply to a family.
Yeah.
So it's it's the same kind of deal. That's the way you measure the success of a family. Are they learning? Are they growing? All those are metrics. When you move into a company, the single sole metric that you have is the bottom line. And that bottom line will tell you that there's a problem in other areas, like respect, like team building, like
Yeah.
production. All these things are all pointing directly to the bottom line, and you can back up and figure out what the problem is. So if you develop respect within the corporation, it starts at the top and works down, not the bottom and up. It starts at the top and works down. That person starts respecting the people that work for them, and they start respecting the people that work for them, and it goes on and on and on. I think one of the interns that I had at one time said, "I never believed a place could be like this." That's a good result. I'll go with
Yeah.
that. Go with that metrics any week.
Yeah, but I guess also one of the equations that needs to be added to this is the personalities. I mean, we have all the traits that we're talking about, and they are intercorrelated with this, because I think about another word here, and it's pride.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Pride, I mean, that is also very important to discuss here when we talk about respect, because pride is something, if you're proud about your work, you're proud about you have your responsibilities, and you have a set of values, you have a set of thinking and communicating, and then somebody's questioning that, and that's also a question of respect then, because if you have a lot of pride in the organization about your role and your hierarchy, whatever it is, that's setting stop for this, to create some kind of respectful communication in the organization. So what is the trick there to solve that problem? Because there's also some cultural differences, I think. Also, it depends on the organizational cultures.
Yeah, it is. And that probably is one of the single most frustrating things about culturally different people. In some cultures, pride is everything. Japanese have an expression of face. It's all about face. You can't do anything that's going to bring some sort of negativity to the household, to your family, to you. So it's all about face. Well, my view is, and this is my view, I want everybody out there to understand that these are my views. My view is that pride is the first problem towards getting to respect.
I
If
agree.
you're just proud of you and it's all about you, that's a problem. Now, I'll give you an example that just happened this morning. One of the CEOs that I coach um, said, I just need this capital. And I was talking with this person. As they were talking, I was thinking, I really need them to invest. I really need them to invest. I said to her, I said, so of course you need them to invest. But what were you doing? Were you listening? No. Were you asking yourself, in order for him to invest in me, I need to invest in him. So what could I do for him that will solve a problem that would encourage him to solve my problem? She says, I never thought of that. I said, yeah. I said, let me tell you something. I never sold a thing in my life. I went in and solved problems. When I solved the problem, people bought the solution. When they bought the solution, I made money. It was that simple. And if you don't have a solution, trust me, nobody's going to buy from you. That's it. So it's the same thing when you're working with people in a corporation. If they're prideful, it's all about them. So you need to have serious conversations with them. And one of the things I used to do with the employees that I had over the years is I would set up a frequency period where I would counsel each person. And I would bring them in and I would counsel them relative to the company, and then I would counsel them relative to their personal circumstance. Ask them, how's it going at home? Are you guys making progress? You doing things? Kids acting right? You enjoy being a family? And you'd be surprised at the answers. But I would talk to these people and I'd say, look, you come in here looking for a job. We gave you a job. We gave you the income that you agreed to accept. Now, are you just going to show up every day and go home because it's all about you? Or are you going to try and be part of the solution? If you're going to try and be part of the solution, you have to work with others, demonstrate that you respect them, because you probably don't bring anything of real value based on what they're working on right this minute. You probably have knowledge that will help down the road, but maybe not right this minute. So you need to find out what's going on. Get in there and respect the people, listen to the people, and then they're going to in turn respect you. So when you're ready to bring forward the ideas that you were hired for, they'll accept them. The guy looked at me and he says, you're a little weird. And I said, well, thank you for saying so. I appreciate that. But I said, it's true. I said, you have to give to get. It's that simple. Give to get. Give to get. And if you're
That's
just
the secret formula.
What's that?
That's the secret formula.
It is a secret formula. It's so simple, right? It's so simple. Give to get. So I if you're so caught up in you and it's all about you, you're probably somebody who doesn't understand respect. It's that simple, because you're so focused on you that how could you possibly respect somebody else, because they have to respect you first? That's not the way it works. It works the other way around. You respect somebody else, you'll get respect back. Give to get.
Yeah, you have to earn respect. So quite normal way of saying.
Yep. Yeah. It's only temporarily given. I mean, when you go into a meeting, you don't just suddenly disrespect everybody in the meeting. You walk in with at least a temporary note in your mind that you're going to respect what these people have to say until you hear it. Now, once you hear it, you realize the person sitting in that bar chair is a complete idiot. That's a whole other story. Now it's your job to sit down and figure out why they're a complete idiot. Are they really a complete idiot, or they just don't understand the dynamics of the room? I had some interesting conversations with people about that. Sometimes I think the real job of a CEO is to just sit down with people and talk. And you find out so much. It's crazy. Anyway, but that's part of it. That's my take on it anyway.
No. So if we go further with this, because now we are talking about the organizations a lot, and I'm gonna go into the next question about this, because I talked about it earlier, but we are living in a ever-changing environment. It's happening a lot now with digitalization and everything. That's we have a lot of stuff going on in the world, and the pace will increase even more and changes environments in organizations and everything that we talked about earlier. But how do you think respect will become quite challenging, I think, to have if people are in an environment that they don't agree on, or they are not adaptive enough to be in that environment if it changes so fast that they are not able to cope with it. I mean, regarding automation or the workplace or whatever it is that is changing. So what's the role of respect in that future that we see, do you think?
Well, let's put it first in a business environment. And I
Yeah,
apologize for that, but I'm probably more business
of
than I
course.
realize. But anyway, so I've had people that are exactly like you're talking about. They're disruptive and all kinds of things. And so
Yeah.
I bring them in, I sit down and talk to them. I say, "What's your end game? What are you trying to accomplish?" "Well, what do you mean what I'm trying to accomplish? I work here just like everybody else." "No, you're not working. You're not really working. You're disruptive. Your thoughts and the way that you treat people is disruptive. So how do you think that's helpful?" Most people can't answer the question. They just never thought of it. It just never, ever occurred to them. So I would say to them, look, this is one of three conversations we're going to have. So I'm making you aware now of what it is, and I'm going to give you a solution. And then we're going to talk in a little while, and we're going to see whether you're implementing that solution and you're becoming a part of the team. Or the third conversation is I say, thank you for trying and goodbye. They look at me and they go, is that quick? I said, absolutely. You think I'd hang on to you for a year so that you can completely disrupt the organization and upset the balance? No, I'm not going to do that. So here's the thing. Here's what you're doing and the effect of it and how it impacts you and how it impacts others. And I explain that. Here's what you can do to solve it. I'd explain that. And then usually a week or two later, depending on my schedule, I would call them back in and I'd talk to them. Here's what I've observed, and the people that work with you have reported to me that this is what they observe. You're changing. That's good. That's absolutely good. As long as you're changing, as long as you're becoming better, then I know we're working our way towards a solution, and that third meeting just keeps getting postponed. So you can understand that I'm watching and everyone else is. We want to know that you're growing and that you're going to contribute to the team, not be disruptive.
No.
That was my solution within that environment.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, I think that you need to have that in organizations, but perhaps many people are saying, okay, with the automation and everything, it's going to be, yeah, the workplace is going to look different, and perhaps we don't have those strategies. We don't know. We have the unknown. We don't know exactly what the future is holding, and people already are getting uncertain and getting disrupted already. And then, of course, these kinds of situations, let's talk about that you have meetings and discussing this already. It should be something that everybody does already now to be able to adapt and also to set the new mindset that is needed, I think. So great advice.
Thank you. Let me just add one more thing. I was talking with somebody yesterday about HR. And most people see HR as a transition between senior management and everybody else. And for the most part, that's a good broad generalization. You know, they're there to make sure that policy happens and make sure that things are conformed to whatever everyone mutually agreed upon. But there's so much more to that. The human resources can be the person that's the eyes and ears for senior management that brings that issue to the forefront with senior management. We have a problem with people being disruptive in the workplace. We have a problem with people not listening. They're not completing assignments. Really? Well, that problem starts at the top. So let's start working down, see where the pinch point is. And sometimes we have managers that have no clue how to lead. And that's the problem right there. So we train those people. Then they start behaving differently, and it's a chain reaction. So, anyway, I just wanted to add that thought.
Yeah, but that's great, and I agree that we have to do something. But I also would like to ask you then, we talk about organizational the challenges within the organization to do this and to have time to do it, but also when we talk about if we look at the tiny tail land and going backwards in life when you were younger, how I think there's quite the same situation, but for young people. I mean, they are also disrupted, and there are lots of information and communication. Everything's going wild, for them. They have so much to filter and to understand and everything. I mean, it's a lot going on when you're young today with social media and everything that has to do with friends and everything. There's a lot of things going on, and the respect there. I think that is quite an interesting trait to just explain a little bit more. How is that shown in for young people? When we talk about the tiny tail land, how is that taught or shown? I mean, you have some kind of, you have the characters, you have the stories, but how is that taught for those young people? And is that something that could be seen? Okay, that's something that can be translated into the grown-up world and adults world as well.
Yeah, we're doing exactly that. We have a series now under CIC that we're translating those kinds of things into the adult world, giving real world examples. I'm just reading what one of our colleagues submitted to me this morning on responsibility, and I'm blown away. Boy, it's a real handle on that. But with children, you have to start small. The problem was back in when I was a young father, the idea was everything went that way, just and hopefully the kids get it. That's not really the way it works. You give a kid an example, you give them a story that's got a cute character in that they can relate to, they get it. Now, why don't we see that? We don't see that because we got a group of people who are parents who weren't taught that way. They were taught with the method.
No.
So that's the problem. And unfortunately, as I said earlier in the broadcast, I said that being a parent does not come with a training manual. You just do the best you can based on what your parents did to you and what their parents did to them. And there you go. That's what you do. Here's a classic example. I want to tell this story because I think it'll help cement the idea with everyone listening. There was a couple that was a young couple married, and they had their first Thanksgiving in America. We give thanks once a year for all kinds of things. But anyway, they had the first Thanksgiving, and it's typically celebrated with a turkey. Turkeys, as you know, are quite large. And so this turkey was served in front of the husband, and he looks at this turkey, and the whole back end of the turkey is missing. He said to his wife, he said, "What happened here?" "Well, that's just the way you do it." "What do you mean that's just the way you do it? What happened at the end of the turkey?" He said, "Why can't we find out?" "Well, let's ask your mom." So they called the mom. "So why is the turkey back half missing?" And the mother said, "That's just the way you do it." Now, see, that's how they transferred it one generation. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
So the husband persists. He said, "Well, let's call Grandma because she's still alive. Let's ask her." So they call Grandma, and Grandma answers, and she said, "What's going on?" And they said, "We want to know why the back half of the turkey's not here." "What?" And he said, "Well, my wife just served me a turkey and there's no back half to it. And your daughter said that that's always the way it's been. There's no back half." "Oh, well, heck, of course there's no back half because I only had a pan that was this big."
No, that's the reason. Yeah. They have not adapted them to today's.
It was a bad trait. I mean, you could buy a big pan, but they were poor. They didn't have money. They had a pan that was this size. So you slice it off, cook it twice, got it.
Yeah.
So they didn't get it. And so that's what happens as we go down, Well, my dad never spent any time with me, and I turned out just great. So the young dad doesn't spend any time with his son. There's a problem. The mother says, they'll figure it out. I'll show them how to do the laundry and they'll figure it out. Well, really? What if you went in there in love and you explained why laundry is important, how it benefits you? What do you get from doing laundry? It's not just put it in, get it out, put it on. It's not that. There's a whole bunch of things to it. And I think that's part of the problem. People don't take the time to explain something to someone else, how it's going to benefit them and how it will work for them. So consequently, they just pass on this crap that they've got from a generation or so ago. And one of the big things I've heard growing up is that, oh yeah, I want my children's life to be so much better than mine. Well, that's wonderful. What are you doing about that? What do you mean? Well, are you teaching your children something different than you were taught? I just want their life to be better. Oh, does that mean more money? Is that what that means? Or more possessions? Or are you actually teaching them something that they can use in real life? I'll tell you, I've approached young families like that, and invariably I get them looking at each other going, well, that's why mom did it. Yeah. Well, my dad taught me that. Well, and they start pointing fingers at each other. It's funny. It's hilarious. But you ask, that's the answer.
Yeah, and then I think then my question is this new thinking. Excuse me. You are thinking new ways here with these traits.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so easy thinking about this, but nobody have done that in this way. I mean, it takes a lot of reflection to really get this and to understand that we really need to reflect on those traits.
We do.
So curious. Was that a long process, or did you sit down and how did that come up in your incredible mind?
We went into this knowing it was a long game. It's not a short game. You're not going to change people's opinions, and you're not going to get them practicing all the 25 traits magically. It's not going to happen. But what you are going to do is get them to think. And if you can get somebody to think, you've got a good shot at changing their mind, because now they're receptive. They're taking something in. So what we do is we have these short stories that we present to children. And one of the things that almost every parent has done, good, bad, or indifferent, is they've read to their children, because that people know them. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to read to your kids. So they get involved in these long children's stories, and they get a third of the way through it and the kid goes to sleep, and there's all kinds of crap that happens. And it's not really productive for the parent, and the kid didn't get much out of it other than they were just reading. So we developed these 100-word stories that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning sets up the story. The middle works towards a solution. And then the end is the part where you say, and Johnny learned that by doing this happened, and he felt like this. Oh, now it's only 45 seconds roughly to read that story. What's that give a parent a chance to do? To sit down and say, well, let me ask you, have you ever seen kindness in action? Have you ever seen anybody in your school be kind to another person? And you give them a chance to respond. Well, yeah, Billy's kind to Maria all the time. And the teacher's really kind to us because they let us do so-and-so. Oh, you've seen that. Well, let me ask you this question. Are you kind to other people? And the kid thinks, well, yeah, I let people go first at the fountain. I did that all the time. And I let people bypass me in the line for lunch. Great. But that discussion, which we call moments, sets it up for a memory. And it seals the deal in the kid's mind, because now kindness has a real face to it. They know what happens with others. They know what happens with them. And they know the result. That creates a memory.
That I think that is also. I have a 3-year-old daughter for viewers that don't know, and to get the subconscious set in that way. I mean, she's too young for those traits, but I can imagine then when you start with learning this earlier, you get it in the subconscious mind. I mean, then you get because now we have the people that I look at the television or YouTube. That's not good for subconscious mind to get those kinds of information that we have, and
But it's
these
not
are valuable and productive and incredible.
Sina, it's not too early. It's absolutely not too early.
No,
I'll give you a classic case. I've had a 3-year-old, a number of them actually, and
I know.
they're unruly a bit. They don't follow direction real well. And I had one child, her mother would take her to the grocery store, and she'd break away from her mother, and her mother would say, "Come on, let's go to the next aisle." And she would do just like this. I swear to you. Oh, and she'd throw herself on the floor and throw a fit. What brought that on? So we started talking to her about that. And said, well, why do you react like that? Because I don't want to do it. Well, why don't you want to do it? Did you ever ask yourself that? Why? I don't know. Really? Can we talk about that? Why don't you know? Because all we're asking you to do is just go to the next aisle. There might be a goodie there that you want. So why wouldn't you follow your mom to the next aisle? Oh, okay. And she learned something. There might be something that she didn't think about.
Yeah.
That was a huge lesson. So you can teach that. You can teach respect. Oh my gosh, you can teach respect.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I'm more a lot about subconscious mind. I think that many people agree with me that if you set the subconscious mind with terror or frightening information or whatever it is that you see today, that's not good for you. And then I think these traits of life that we're talking about, they are not helping us because we don't use them when we look at those. But if we have those traits of life and the science land, if you use that in a productive way in an early age, I think that is really something that we need today and also in the future. So, and I'm glad that we have these kinds of amazing conversations, DR. I think it's really so important. So I'm glad that you are on this show to show your side of it, and because you're an expert in this area. You know your traits.
I don't know. You know what the definition is of an expert? You know what the definition is?
I know. Done all the mistakes, right?
No.
Oh, I've heard that one.
The definition of an expert is an old spurt under a lot of pressure.
I can imagine. Yeah.
That's an expert.
But that's amazing that you are doing something productive like this, and I really am glad that you are on this show. And I would like to just finally ask you: is there some advice that you would like, practical advice that you would give both organizations, schools, and at home to when we talk about both resilience and respect? What is the best advice that you give them to really create a better environment for this to bloom?
Well, as I said at the opening of the show, listening is key to respect.
Yeah.
We have a little character that represents that. He's called Larry the Listener, and he's a rabbit with way oversized ears. And he said, I know how to listen. And that's his superpower. Well, if we can get people to listen, you can start improving respect right away. Right away. So if you get people listening one to another, there's an advantage. So I guess my thought for the day is look for opportunities where you can just listen. You don't have to contribute every time you're in an environment. Listen.
Yeah, and that's great advice, because we need that to have the time to listen, to have the time to reflect on what we're hearing. And yeah, I agree with you. So great advice, Dion, and a very amazing. And I love the way you talk about this, and I see the passion in your eyes, and I'm also passionate about this because I think this is such an important.
It is.
This is amazing what we are talking about here, and respect is one of those traits that are, what you said, one of the first most important ones, but all of them are important.
They are, yeah. But if you start with respect, if you build a foundation around respect, then the other things start coming easier, because every other character trait supports respect. Love supports respect. Honesty supports respect. Gratitude supports respect.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are all interchangeable. Absolutely not interchangeable, but interoperable. They
Yeah.
all support one another, and it's huge. But it starts with respect. Let's start there. If everybody listening would just say to themselves, "Who don't I respect, and why?" And could I give them more respect? Is there a way to do that? And it starts with listening. Listen more carefully to them. Don't go into the meeting with preconceived ideas that that person's a jerk or an idiot. Listen. There might be something in there that you can use. There might be something in there that tells you, maybe he's not a jerk. Maybe he's not that kind of person. I'm just not listening.
Yeah. That's so important.
Yep.
Great final words, Dr. And for you that are listening, we're gonna have these traits of life. We have many to go here, many still to go. So we'll need to set the stage for next week. What we talk about that prior to the show. But I would like to thank you again, Dr. And if for people that are viewing this, please subscribe to this channel if you want to get to watch this live, because you get the mail in your mailbox if you're subscribed, so that you can just log on and be on the show straight away. And thank you again for listening and watching, and until next time, and have a great evening and day or whatever you are in the world. What is the time at your place now, Dr.? You have
right
noon,
now,
right?
It's 1 o'clock.
Yeah. So, and I'm in Sweden, so it's evening for me. But have a great day, Dr. And
thank you. You too.
Great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.